Hello everyone, this is Pal Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to break down the details on what's still to come on this brutal storm that's impacting the US, plus take you through the rest of 2022 to see what's to come to close out the year. So let's start off with the overall hazard index, and it's busy, guys. We still got blizzard warnings happening for portions of Grand Forks and Fargo, near Pierre, down here into Sioux Falls. A lot of this is just that blowing snow with the winds still cranking on the backside. That snow continues to go eastbound later on today and through tomorrow, and they still have blizzard warnings, especially along the peninsula here, through winter storm watches and warnings, all the way through winter weather advisories, and then heavier rain associated into the Northeast, where they're still in the warm sector. They've got some flash flood watches up there, and even some slight risk for excessive rainfall as well, as you're going to be seeing the rapid temperature drop in a big way over the next 24 hours, while the West Coast is dealing with a dangerous ice storm up there in the Pacific Northwest, in and around the Seattle region down to Salem. Definitely treacherous travel up there for the next 24 to 48 hours. So let's really break down the details and take a look at the map that encompasses about 75% of the country with some sort of watch. This is all wind chill watches. It creeped all the way down into the Texas coastline. Now it's going to shift eastbound, and even Florida does not escape that. All the way down into Naples, Florida, they do have a freeze watch in effect for the next 24 to 48 hours as this colder air continues to move your way, and it'll go all the way to the East Coast. And there's your high winds that we're expecting as well up in the Northeast, upwards to 70 and 80 miles an hour is definitely not out of the question. And yet Buffalo has another extreme lake effect snow event with another 3 to 4 feet of snow potentially for them. What's to come from Friday afternoon through Christmas Day. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You get all my daily content on this channel, and I do upload every single day in the morning time frame to keep you fully ahead of the storm. And it's also important to hit the like button as well. It definitely helps out more than you know. So let's really delve into the details. This morning, you can see the extreme temperature drop. They've been cold up here into the northern states, but now they're sharing that cold all the way down to the Central Plains, all the way down in the deep south of Texas. Look at that hard freeze for the entire state of Texas into the deep south as the colder air continues to shift eastbound with -7 this morning and a good part of the Ohio Valley. But you can see the temperature gradient. The Northeast is still waiting in the wings of that warm sector into the 40s and 50s this morning. You can see along the East Coast and Florida, you've been baking in the 86-degree sun down there in Miami, but that's going to change in a big way over the next 24 to 48 hours as you're going to get the cold air continue to move your way. So, but we're also dealing with those power outages with the extreme cold that's taking place, with the ice storm that's happening in the Pacific Northwest, and then all the winds that are going to be coming across. We're looking at a lot of power outages right now across portions of Texas into Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina, as well as Connecticut up there with all the higher winds back into portions of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But still along these yellow shaded states, upwards to over 10,000 people without power. So significant loss of power, and that's probably going to continue over the next 24 to 48 hours as we're only about halfway through from this winter storm. So what's taken place so far, here's the snowfall over the last 72 hours. Like I mentioned, this storm originated pretty much in Montana. So this is diving across, and we're about halfway through. So we're only about halfway through this event. Now it's going to be shifting off through the Ohio Valley, now into the Northeast, and especially along the Great Lakes there, and upward into Ottawa, into Quebec, back into portions of Ontario. Are going to get really heavy snowfall as this bomb really starts to bomb out. This low pressure center really rapidly deepens today into tomorrow. Really bombs out down to a 960 range, pretty intense. And as it starts to bomb out, those winds really start to crank, and that's where it is a huge concern Here's the latest precipitation outlook for the next 3 days. Like I mentioned, most of this activity is shifted off and through the Ohio Valley, through the Great Lakes, into the Northeast. This is the precipitation of what's still to come from this system. And then up there in the Northwest, they have their own separate system they're dealing with the rain impacting the coastlines, and then with the cold air coming in, that spells trouble with that ice. And they're already reporting ice up there, and it just gets worse throughout the day. So definitely be on high alert and have safe travels, because it's really dangerous. It's almost difficult to drive in ice. So let's take a look at the winter impacts, because these are pretty extreme. So this is the overall winter impacts for the next 3 days. With the ice storm you're dealing with, some of these areas could have moderate, if not major, impacts as far as the winter storm impacts go. So definitely be on high alert, as just treacherous travel. Be up on guard up here. And then once this system moves through, we're still going to be dealing with those heavier snow bands, and then the winds on the backside. And especially as you get up here to the Northeast, we're looking at moderate conditions for winter storm activity up here, and mainly because of this high winds. They're going to be associated with those 70-80 mile per hour winds, and especially along the Great Lakes, we're looking at for intense snowfall upwards to 2 to 3 feet. And that could be major, and then if not extreme, once you get into Buffalo, into Watertown, as we have yet another ideal setup for a very heavy lake effect snow event. So in fact, let's break down the details straight from the National Weather Service, guys. We're talking lake effect snow starts today into the afternoon time frame, going all the way through Christmas Day. Wind gust of 50 to 70 miles an hour from Friday into Saturday, blowing and drifting snow, near zero visibility. Wind chills will be down to the 10 to 25 below range. And yes, we're talking blizzard conditions again, with snowfall rates of 3 to 4 inches per hour. You just got 6 feet of snow just a couple of weeks ago in Buffalo. And yes, the National Weather Service is again predicting at least 3 feet of snow down here in Buffalo. Into Watertown could be up to 4 feet. But I can tell you, some models already are hinting at the potential that it could end potentially with another 6 feet of snow, which is really unheard of to have two systems so close together. All that snow is melted, but we could be looking at being buried again by the time you wake up on Christmas morning up here along the lakes. And the change is coming a big way into the Northeast today. So, overnight tonight through tomorrow morning, over that 24-hour period, you saw the temperatures right now. By the time you get into overnight tonight, we're going to be looking at 44-degree temperature drop in Pittsburgh, 40-degree temperature difference in State College, Lancaster, 52 degrees difference, Philadelphia, 50 degrees. So you can definitely see big changes are on the way for the Northeast over the next 24 hours. And really, it's all the wind they're going to be associated with it as well. So you got all the heavy rain coming in now. Then you got the flash freeze with the freezing rain and the sleet. And then you get snow on the backside, and the winds are going to be cranking as that low pressure rapidly deepens today over the next 24 to 48 hours. So here's the wind swath of potential maximum wind gusts in that allotted time frame. All these areas in orange could potentially max out. Make me see some 50 mile per hour wind gusts. Those areas in red, maybe 60 mile per hour wind gusts. You start getting these brown shaded areas, that's where you can see some of these 70, if not 80 mile per hour wind gusts. And it actually maxes out about 100 miles an hour in some of these isolated spots. Is definitely not out of the question with a 960 millibar low pressure center that really rapidly deepens today into tomorrow. And then as you wake up on Christmas Eve, you're still in the cold sector. So most of the country is going to be below freezing. These are actual temperatures by the time you wake up on Christmas Eve morning. And you can see all the way down in Orlando now, we're in the 20s, right? So even Florida does not escape this cold. Even into Savannah doesn't escape it. You go along the coast here, pick your temperature, 9 degrees there. I mean, that's the cold stuff. You're in the 50s this morning. So you can see the big change is on the way as the cold will continue to move across and really set in and kind of maximize itself over a good chunk, if not 90% of the country by the time you wake up on Christmas morning. So about 90% of you guys are going to be waking up with the freeze all the way into Florida, all the way into the East Coast, encompassing a good, yeah, like I mentioned, about 90%. Only people are really left out is the extreme far western regions of the US, but obviously well up into Canada with those negative numbers still locked into place. But here's the snowfall just between now and the day after Christmas. So this is still what's to come from this system as this moves across. You saw the snow right now over the last 72 hours. This is adding to that as the low really deepens. You're going to see the most significant amounts, especially along the lakes there. 2 to 3 feet is definitely not out of the question. Even up here into Ontario, into Ottawa, through portions of Quebec, over 2 to 3 feet is definitely not out of the question with this system. And then swinging across now, heavier amounts extend into Ohio, getting in through Pennsylvania, and then you'll have snow happening right now into Kentucky, through Tennessee, and all the way swinging across into portions of West Virginia. This little system right here is what's to come the day after Christmas. So we do have a secondary system. We're still in the cross-polar flow. So we're still going to be adding to these snow totals up here in the Dakotas, bringing more snow for places like into Minnesota. And then we'll have another swath of snow coming through portions of Iowa, and that will likely reach portions of Illinois as you get into that Tuesday after Christmas timeframe. But here's the ice that you're going to be dealing with over the next couple of days. So from to the north here, with those extreme impacts well to the north here in northern Maine, we could be looking at that icy changeover. Those temperatures rapidly change in a big way. Then of course today, over the next 48 hours, up here into the Pacific Northwest, with all the icing concerns, some of this could be a quarter, if not potentially a half inch of ice. Very treacherous, damaging type ice storm up here into the Pacific Northwest, getting into Washington and Oregon. Be on high alert if you have to be on the roads up here in that region, because it's very difficult to drive on ice, right? So what's happening after Christmas? So all eyes will transfer out west. We're going to be watching the cold airs finally kind of retreat, right? So you get an extreme plunge in temperatures. It rapidly changes. We got this by the time we get into, say, your Monday time frame, the day after Christmas, we're still a little bit colder on the colder side into our central and eastern 2/3, but we got the ridge building out west. But then all eyes really start to look up towards the Aleutian Islands again, up here near Alaska, where we are looking at a really kind of a significant trough that really starts to build up there in that region. And we almost have like a kind of a El Nino type setup, to be honest with you, take place next week as this trough really dives in out west, bringing really a lot of unsettled weather and just a lot of rainfall along the west coast, and then in through the deserts as well. And that goes into portions of Texas again. And honestly, we could be looking at even possibly severe storms by the time we get into this time next week on Friday. And then what's significant is the rapidly changing difference in temperatures by the time you get into your New Year's Eve up here in the Northeast. They go really just the complete opposite of what they're going to be experiencing now, as really well above average temperatures to close out 2022. So let's talk about this. So as we get into Tuesday of next week, we've got this pretty significant storm that's going to be impacting the West Coast of this, unless this wall of water that really encompasses the West Coast. There's a lot of water vapor with this piece of energy, and it's going to bring a lot of rain to the West Coast on Tuesday, and that just continues the day on Wednesday, funneling in that jet and then going across through the Southwest desert. So places like into Phoenix, we're talking some heavier rainfall moving back into your area. Southern California gets in the action with some moderate rainfall moving in as this continues to move across into our central states. And at the same time, we'll be warming up. So by the time we get into your Thursday time frame, say like the 29th, look at the difference. I mean, it was like 16 degrees this morning in Houston. 6 days from now, you're talking high of 75. As that warm air continues to surge It was incredibly cold this morning in Illinois, 40 below wind chills. Now we're talking in the 50s, if not middle 50s, by the time we get into Thursday. That's a rapid change in temperatures as it really rebounds quickly heading into next week after the cold air moves out. And when it does move out, and as that comes across, we'll be warming back up. I mean, it's not normal to have temperatures in the 70s right at the end of December. We'll have a little bit more instability. So yeah, we could be even talking about some severe storms again by the time we get into Thursday the 29th, and then headed into your Friday timeframe the 30th. So we'll be definitely kind of fine-tuning that particular setup as we get closer to the end of the year. But one thing's for certain, we are going to warm up in a big way, especially as we get into the central US in towards the middle of next week. It comes from the west, but really it starts to intensify as you get into New Year's Eve. And then there's the well above average temperature anomalies as you go into New Year's Eve with those 15 to 25 degrees as you close out 2022 on the warmer side for sure. And then there's the rain. So here's the prospects between now and the next 8 days. So this is the setup for the next couple of days, or the precipitation that's still to come up here into the Northeast for the next couple of days. All this activity, most of this, there's some today, but most of this is going to be Thursday, Friday of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week up here. And then back here, this is all going to be off the West Coast coming in on Tuesday. So this mainly encompasses what they're getting over the next 24 to 48 hours, and then what's to come for Tuesday, Wednesday, into Thursday off the West Coast. And some of these are pretty significant, guys. I mean, look at the chart on the right-hand corner of the screen. We're talking several inches, if not 4 to 6 inches up here in the purples. We're talking over a foot of precipitation up here. And then even down here in the deserts, even into Phoenix, we could be looking at several inches of rainfall from this system as this continues to dump some very healthy rains heading into next week off the West Coast. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this channel. Definitely hit the subscribe button and catch the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.